Let me take you back to when everything still seemed normal. My wife, Emma, and I had been married for over 12 years. Life had fallen into that comfortable rhythm you settle into after so long together. We had the usual routines, weekend dinners at the same restaurants, lazy Sunday mornings, and even that unspoken agreement of, you do your thing, I do mine. Honestly, I thought we were in a good place. Or at least, I thought we were. Emma was always the more social one. She had a knack for getting everyone to open up, to spill their secrets, and somehow turn everything into a good time. She had that ability to make people feel like they were the only ones in the room, which was part of the reason I fell for her. But lately, that charm was being used on everyone else but me. The first crack appeared one night when Emma got home late from a work event. She was unusually chatty, glowing even, in that way someone does when they've had a really good time. I didn't think much of it then. But when this started happening more frequently, the late nights, the hushed conversations on her phone, the texts that made her giggle and roll her eyes like a teenager, it started to get under my skin. Now, I'm not one to snoop. It's just not who I am. But when your wife suddenly guards her phone like it's a nuclear launch device and disappears for hours under the guise of work meetings, you start to wonder. One night, while Emma was in the shower, she left her phone out on the nightstand. And wouldn't you know it, she'd forgotten to log out of her email. That's when I found it. The smoking gun. It was one of those moments where time seems to freeze. You know you shouldn't look, but the urge is too strong, and you already know deep down that what you're about to see is going to change everything. I opened her email, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. And there it was. A string of emails with a familiar name, Michael. Now, Michael wasn't just some random guy. No, that would have been too easy. Michael was my brother. The same guy I'd shared a childhood with, played football with, and later built a business with. We were more than brothers. We were business partners. We'd built our family company together from the ground up, and while we weren't always close on a personal level, I'd never imagined he'd cross that line. I couldn't believe what I was reading. The messages were casual, but not in the way siblings or friends would talk. These weren't work-related emails or the odd bit of family gossip. This was something entirely different. I felt my stomach drop as I read about their secret dates, their plans for getaways that I had no idea about, and worst of all, their explicit discussions of things that were definitely not meant for my eyes. Last night was incredible, baby. I can't stop thinking about it, one message read. My blood ran cold. There were even photos of them together. Selfies at restaurants, the beach, cozy weekend trips I didn't even know she'd taken. The dates were there, matching up with all those nights she was supposedly working late. There was no mistaking it. Emma and Michael had been carrying on an affair for months, if not longer. I sat there, numb, scrolling through every sickening detail of their relationship. The worst part, Emma seemed to be enjoying herself. She looked happy in those photos, happier than she'd been with me in years. It was like I was staring at a stranger. I couldn't decide if I was more furious with her or with Michael. My own brother, sneaking around behind my back like some sleazy character in a bad soap opera. The betrayal from not just one, but two of the closest people in my life hit me like a freight train. I could feel the anger bubbling up, ready to explode. But instead of blowing up, something strange happened. I went cold. In that moment, I made a decision. This wasn't going to be an emotional confrontation with lots of screaming and throwing things around. No, I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. If they thought they could blindside me and get away with it, they had another thing coming. I was going to hit them where it hurt, calmly, methodically, and with precision. I closed the email, placed her phone back exactly where it had been, and walked out of the bedroom like nothing had happened. When Emma got out of the shower, I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee, pretending to be engrossed in a newspaper I wasn't reading. "How was your day?" she asked, oblivious to the fact that her world was about to be torn apart. "Fine," I said with a smile, glancing up at her. "Just fine." But inside, I was already plotting. The first step in my plan? Dealing with Michael. The business we built together was my leverage, and I was about to use it in a way he'd never see coming. So there I was, sitting on this massive betrayal, pretending like nothing had changed. Emma continued with her fake late nights and secret rendezvous, and Michael? Well, he was even more oblivious than her. The man honestly thought he could sneak around with my wife, and we'd just keep running our business like nothing was wrong. Oh, how wrong he was. The thing about working with family is that you know every strength and every weakness. Michael may have been slick with my wife, but when it came to business, he was lazy. I had always been the one paying attention to the fine print, handling the clients, the accounts, the money. He was more of a face of the company type, good at schmoozing but terrible at the details. And I used that to my advantage. Over the next few weeks, I started making quiet moves. First, I began shifting key assets from our joint accounts into ones I had full control over. Nothing too obvious, just a little here, a little there. I had to be subtle, making sure Michael didn't catch on. The goal wasn't to take everything at once. It was to pull the rug out from under him when he least expected it. Meanwhile, Emma carried on like she was some master of deception, texting Michael under the table at dinner or during what she called her work breaks. Each time she flashed me that fake smile and told me she had to stay late again, it only fueled my determination. She had no idea what was coming. Then came the day I'd been waiting for. I had secured enough of the company's assets to cripple Michael financially. And now, it was time to drop the bomb. I invited both of them, yes, Emma and Michael, to a family dinner at our house. The plan was to keep things civil at first, a nice, casual get-together. Everyone would be there. My parents, Emma's parents, even a few close friends. Michael and Emma had no clue that I knew about their little affair, and they certainly didn't know what was in store for them that night. I'll never forget the look on Emma's face when she walked in that evening, looking all smug and self-assured. She probably thought she had me completely fooled, living this double life while playing the role of the devoted wife. Michael arrived a little later, giving me his usual brotherly grin, completely unaware that I was about to crush him. The dinner started out normally enough. Small talk, a few laughs, nothing out of the ordinary. I played my part perfectly, acting as though everything was just fine. But inside, I was counting down the minutes to when I'd finally unleash everything. After dessert, I stood up, cleared my throat, and told everyone I had some important news to share. The room went quiet, and I could feel Emma's eyes on me, probably wondering what I was going to say. Michael, too, looked at me with this curious expression, completely oblivious to the fact that his world was about to come crashing down. I started slowly. You know, I've always been grateful for family. We've all supported each other through so much, and I think we all value honesty and trust, right? I glanced at Emma, who shifted uncomfortably in her seat but tried to maintain her calm exterior. So I thought it was only fair that tonight, we talk about betrayal. That got their attention. I pulled out my phone, the same one I had used to screenshot every incriminating email and text I'd found between my wife and my brother. I opened the gallery and mirrored it onto the TV screen behind me. One by one, the photos and messages flashed up for everyone to see. The cozy selfies, the texts about sneaking off together, the steamy messages they'd exchanged late at night, all of it. The room was silent, except for the gasps of horror from our parents. Emma went pale as a ghost, and Michael just stared at the screen, his mouth slightly open, as if he couldn't quite process what was happening. You see, Emma and Michael have been getting very close lately, I said, keeping my tone calm, almost conversational. And it seems like they thought they could get away with it. Well, now everyone knows. Emma tried to speak, her voice shaking. James, I can explain. But I cut her off. Oh, I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to explain, but not tonight. Tonight is just about revealing the truth. Michael finally found his voice, stammering out something about a misunderstanding, that it wasn't what it looked like. I turned to him and said, "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like, brother. And speaking of betrayal, let's talk business." His face drained of color as I began to explain how, over the past few weeks, I had quietly taken control of all our major assets, leaving him with nothing. "You no longer have a stake in the company," I said coldly. "Everything we built. It's mine now. Consider this your severance package, for both the business and our family." Michael looked like he was going to be sick. Emma was in full-on panic mode, her face red and tear-streaked, trying to plead with me to listen, to forgive her. But I wasn't interested in listening to anything she had to say. I left them both sitting there, broken and exposed, while the rest of the family watched in stunned silence. But this wasn't just about ruining their night. It was about making sure they'd feel the consequences of their betrayal for a long, long time. After I dropped that bomb, The silence in the room was deafening. Emma was sobbing, trying to pull herself together, her hands trembling as she reached for me, but I stepped back. She looked pathetic, her face twisted in desperation, a far cry from the confident, manipulative woman who had been sneaking around behind my back. Michael, on the other hand, sat frozen, like a man who had just been shot in the chest. His eyes darted between me, the TV screen, and the rest of the family, but there was nothing he could say to save himself. The evidence was right there for everyone to see. I kept it together, even though a part of me wanted to scream, to throw things, to physically push them out of the house. But that wasn't my style. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. I'd already won the moment I put that slideshow up on the screen. They were defeated, and I wanted them to sit in that feeling. The family, well, they didn't know what to do. My parents, Emma's parents, they just sat there, stunned, unsure of how to react. It's not every day you find out that your son's wife has been cheating with his brother. The awkwardness was palpable, but I wasn't sticking around to ease anyone's discomfort. I calmly turned off the TV, pocketed my phone, and said, "I think we're done here." Then I walked out. Just like that. I didn't go far. I drove around for a bit, letting the adrenaline simmer down, trying to process what I had just done. There was a sense of satisfaction, sure, but it wasn't the triumphant feeling you might expect. It was more like finally setting down a heavy weight I'd been carrying for too long. I felt lighter, yes, but there was also the nagging realization that my life as I knew it was over. But that wasn't a bad thing. When I got home, Emma was waiting for me in the kitchen, her face blotchy from crying, eyes swollen. She had clearly been through the emotional ringer, but I wasn't interested in hearing her out. "James, please," she started, her voice cracking. "We can talk about this. I made a mistake, A mistake." I cut her off, my voice cold. "Emma, you didn't trip and fall into my brother's bed. This was a months-long affair. You planned it. You lied about it. You made me out to be the idiot while you played house with him. Don't stand here and call it a mistake." She stared at me, trying to find the right words, but I wasn't interested in giving her a second chance to lie to my face. "I'm filing for divorce," I said bluntly. "I've already talked to a lawyer." "You'll get nothing." Her eyes widened in shock. "Nothing. James, we built this life together. You can't just throw it all away." "That's exactly what I'm doing. You threw it away the moment you decided to cheat." I turned to leave, but not before adding, "And good luck with Michael. You'll need it, considering he's not going to have any money or job after this." Her face crumpled. She knew I wasn't bluffing. The next day, I called Michael. Not to confront him, that part was already done, but to make things perfectly clear. I didn't want to hear his excuses or explanations. I wanted him to understand just how deep of a hole he was in. He answered on the first ring, his voice shaky. "James, I'm not interested in your apologies," I said, cutting him off immediately. "This isn't a conversation. This is a warning." "Warning?" He sounded confused, still not fully grasping the situation. "You no longer own a single share of our company. I've taken it all. You've lost everything, and it's entirely your fault. Our business relationship is over. As for our personal one, consider yourself exiled from this family. Mom and Dad know everything, and so does everyone else." He was silent for a moment, then I heard him choke back what I assumed was a sob. "James, I messed up. I know I did. Please, don't do this. I can't lose everything." "That's exactly what's happening, Michael. You lost everything the moment you thought you could sleep with my wife and keep your cushy life. You were a fool to think there wouldn't be consequences." I hung up before he could respond. There was no more to say. Michael had dug his own grave, and I had simply handed him the shovel. From what I heard through the grapevine, he spiraled quickly after that. Lost his job, sold his car, and eventually moved out of town. Good riddance. As for Emma, she didn't fare much better. I filed for divorce the next day, and with the evidence of her infidelity so glaringly obvious, it was a clean break. I made sure the settlement left her with nothing. No house, no money, and no reputation. She tried to fight it at first, but she quickly realized she had no leg to stand on. In the end, she was left with her car and the clothes on her back. Once the dust settled, she reached out to me a few times, begging, apologizing, trying to patch things up. But I wasn't interested. Every message she sent went straight to the trash. I didn't need to hear her lies anymore. The person I thought she was didn't exist, and I wasn't about to waste another second of my life on her. The best part? Michael bailed on her a week after I cut him out of the business. He left her with nothing, just like I had. I guess the thrill of their affair didn't feel quite so exciting once they were both broke and disgraced. Last I heard, she was living in a crappy apartment on the other side of town, working a dead-end job, and trying to piece her life back together. I didn't care. I had moved on. And what about me? Well, I came out of it stronger. There's a funny thing that happens when you go through betrayal like that. It breaks you down, but then, if you handle it right, it rebuilds you into someone tougher, someone who doesn't take crap from anyone. I still run the company, my company now, and it's doing better than ever. I've been seeing someone new, too. Someone who doesn't lie, doesn't cheat, and actually values honesty. And let me tell you, after going through what I went through, that's more valuable than anything money can buy. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that betrayal can destroy you, but only if you let it. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply reclaiming your life and moving on without a backward glance. As for Emma and Michael, they'll never get that chance. And honestly, that's revenge enough for me. Thank you for visited my YouTube channel. Your support, likes, and comments truly inspire me to create even more engaging content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. You're a part of this amazing community, and I'm thrilled to share my stories with you. See you in the next video on YouTube.